First of all, I just wanted to congratulate you on a very good thread. I think you've done an excellent job of explaining this trading method. You've had a lot of patience and made things very clear. I'm very happy that I found this thread of yours. Look forward to participating and continuing reading it. I've enjoyed reading your thread all the way to the end, which is where I'm at now. I personally have been starting to trade this method almost identical to the way you trade it about 4 or 5 months ago when it was first introduced to me. Very happy with this trading method. It's taken a lot of stress and pressure off of the intraday trading methods that I've done in the past. What I'd like to do is just show briefly how I analyze my charts and how I set up the charts. One of the indicators that I do use is the stochastic, and it's probably partly because I've been using the stochastic indicator since my early trading days, and I've grown very accustomed to reading it. For this trading method, I only use the stochastic for two purposes. One is to read oversold and overbought areas, and the other one is for divergence and convergence, which I'll explain a little bit later. The first thing I do when starting my analysis on a bear chart like this is I will draw in support and resistance lines. Once I've done that, I'll draw trend lines in, and then after that I'll try to analyze any other very obvious patterns that I see, which I'll explain in a bit. And then I use fibs, especially looking for the 50% fib retracement level. That's basically it in a nutshell. I'll always start on the weekly time frame, which is the one that we're on right now. We're looking at the euro dollar. And when I start drawing my support and resistance lines, I will oftentimes zoom all the way out so I can see as much data as possible. I don't always do this, but sometimes it helps to see how far back there might have been some support and resistance. And I try not to draw too many horizontal lines on each time frame. What I'll do is I'll start on the weekly, I'll draw a few horizontal lines, then I'll go to the daily time frame and then the 4-hour time frame, because they do all kind of give a little bit of a different view of where that support and resistance area is. But if there are any support and resistance areas that are just screaming out to be drawn, I'll go ahead and draw as many as needed so that I can be sure that I caught them all rather than to miss them. So this is the weekly time frame. Then maybe I go down to the daily and I would draw 1 or 2 on the daily time frame, areas that seem very obvious and that could use support and resistance line. I'm just going to zip through it here really quick, and then I would go down to the 4-hour. Now I also use a big number indicator on the 4-hour time frame to show me where all those 0 are. On the 4-hour, I might zoom in a little bit more to catch some of those swings a little bit clearer and see if any trend lines here could be drawn where we would, sorry, not trend lines, support and resistance lines, horizontal lines where we might encounter some support resistance again. So once I've done that on the 3 time frames, I'll usually go back to the weekly and I'll start with a trend line, and I will give the weekly trend line a certain color so that no matter what time frame I'm looking at, I will know by the color of the trend line which trend line that is for, which time frame. So the green one would be for the weekly. If it needs 2 trend lines, I will draw that. I wouldn't say that the euro dollar right now needs an uptrend line just because it hasn't given us enough of a swing here to draw one, but some currency pairs will kind of give that need to have not only a downtrend but an uptrend, at least in my view. So after that I'll go to the daily time frame and I will draw a trend line there, and I will do that in a different color so that at a quick glance I'll know by the color which trend line we're looking at. So I know that this darker one is for the daily time frame. Now every now and then, if I see on the 4-hour time frame a very good trend line area, I'll go ahead and draw one. I don't really see one now on the 4-hour, but if I did, I would draw an even different color trend line, and I would make sure that it's only visible on the 4-hour time frame so that it doesn't confuse me on the higher time frames. I would do it like this and maybe make it a different color so that it doesn't get in the way of the others. So now at a glance I know that this trend line here is for the daily time frame, We don't see the green one, but if we did, we would know that's the weekly one. So it kind of helps me to get a bearing for where we are. There's the weekly time frame. I can see we're coming close to it. And here's my daily, trend line. So that's how I do trend lines and support and resistance areas. After that, the only other thing I would do is look for patterns. Let me explain what I mean by that. I'll go to another chart to explain this better, and I'll probably start another video here so that this one doesn't get too long.